Joe Rexrode is here, the basketball Benjamin himself, fresh off a UT's overtime win against Ole Miss last night. I was on The Athletic this morning, Joe, and I was looking for your column from the game, and it didn't pop up on my feed. And I'm thinking, what? Joe spent all that time driving to Knoxville.
Saw it.
I didn't get it. Joe spent all that time. I got the Vingan story, the flip-flop story on Forsberg. I got Joe's column on Derrick Henry, which I was a little surprised by. But I didn't see the UT basketball one. I was a little disappointed because you spent all that time driving out there and covering the game and driving back, and it's just a big one. But Joe's with us now.
Yeah, I wrote it. Maybe you've been blocked, Jared. I don't know. Maybe you've been blocked from reading my content. I can't say. I can't confirm or deny.
Maybe it's the algorithms at The Athletic that just realize that I, like most people, would rather read about the football and the hockey than the college basketball, and that's why they gave me what they gave me. I got Eric Chavez leaves the Yankees to become the Mets hitting coach. Just popped up on The Athletic, from whatever you make of that. But it's time now for Jared versus Joe.
Jared Stillman versus Joe Rexrode. Now on Stillman and Company.
On ESPN
102.5 The Game.
Well, we were just talking about it, so I feel like it's only right to kick off Jared versus Joe with this topic. Adam Vingan, quote-unquote, flip-flops on his take on Filip Forsberg a couple months ago, said that they should trade him, then put out a column saying that they should not trade him. Is he right or is he wrong in changing his opinion? Joe, you go first.
Well, what Adam does is he gives opinions at a certain point in time, and then new opinions can emerge with new information rather than try to twist himself into knots so that like his previous take doesn't look wrong, or he doesn't have to admit he was wrong. I mean, I don't have any problem with what he's done here. I change my opinion all the time. I mean, Jared, you still a big Calle Yarncroke guy? Like it's got like
don't make this about me. Don't make this about me. Here's the question: Was he right to change? Was he right to change his opinion with 1 month, 6 years of data over here on Forsberg, 1 month over here? Was that right? Is it the right opinion?
Is it the look?
That's the question.
I can't say that I 100%. When he wrote that they absolutely had to trade him, I've been kind of in between on this thing all along, and I still am. But in that month, Jared, I think the big thing, as Adam said today, that changed him. It's the trajectory of the team. And Tanner Jeannot is one of those pieces of information that, look, I'm not sitting here saying Tanner Jeannot is going to be a 10-year, 20-goal guy, but clearly he's not just some replacement scrub, right? Can we agree on that? I mean, he's in the Rookie of the Year race.
For right now, yeah. For right now. But see, this is a small sample size, and this is my point is
sure.
When you're making a decision like this, the 49ers had Jimmy Garoppolo for 6 games. If a Jory Jackson intercepts a football in the back of the end zone that he drops, Jimmy doesn't go 6-0, and everybody isn't talking about how great Jimmy is. And San Francisco gave Jimmy that humongous contract because of those 6 games. And everybody thought that Jimmy was great. And all of a sudden, after a couple of years, like San Francisco's like, Jimmy's not that great. And you could argue that Jimmy being their quarterback cost them a Super Bowl. And that's why you got to be very careful about the small sample sizes. That's why last year when Justin Herbert lit it up, I wasn't ready to call him, the for sure future franchise in LA, because I've seen this with a guy like Baker Mayfield, who had a great rookie year and has been up and down ever since. And this is sports. This is why you got to do it for an extended period of time. And this is what bothers me about that opinion, which is you got 6 years of watching Filip Forsberg, and you know what Filip Forsberg is. And I think we can all agree on this. He's a second-level forward. Fair?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you want to tier things. But, yes, like he's not on the level of a Connor McDavid,
and we've been saying for forever, they got to stop taking 2s and trying to make them 1s. That's what they've done here. Long-term contract, top of the market money for Johansson. Long-term contract, top of the money market for Duchesne. We know it's not going to be cheap to sign Forsberg. And whatever you thought it was going to cost you at Thanksgiving when Adam wrote the article that he would get rid of Forsberg, now it's going to cost you more, just like how Adam's opinion has changed. And I keep thinking back to if Forsberg was this good consistently. You've seen guys that have played well in a contract year. If Forsberg was this good consistently, then you probably would have done better against the Dallas Stars in the playoffs a couple of years ago. You probably wouldn't have lost to that terrible Arizona team, though I think he played okay in that bubble series. But you wouldn't have lost to that terrible Arizona team. You wouldn't have had all these dips and everything else. So now all of a sudden you went from, I can't really rely on this guy at the level that it's going to take me to now, yeah, go ahead and lock me in for the next 6 years. That's where I'm like, whoa.
Right. But you're forgetting it. But you're forgetting a few things. One is, I believe, I would think that what has happened with the team and the way things look now would make it easier to be able to re-sign Forsberg. I don't know that for sure. And I know all Preds fans know well a situation from a few years ago where everyone was sure that it was going to happen and David Poile got burned. But
isn't that crazy that was 10 years ago, by the way?
Is that what it was? Exactly 10. So, look, so there's that. And then also there's just the fact, Jared, what if this team can compete at the highest level? And look, the good thing is there's still several weeks to find this out, to find out if Forsberg can stay healthy, to find out if he can be more consistent and keep producing. And then also to find out, like, okay, is Forsberg almost like their trade deadline acquisition because they actually feel like they can go into the playoffs and make a run? I'm keeping an open mind on that because I still think Colorado is going to end up being the class of this division. But the way the Preds play, the way they're playing, the way they're getting production from their top people, the way they've solidified the six on defense, and Saros is just, I at this point, I think he is what he is. So with all that, you're going to tell me that there's no way this team could make a run? And if you think there's a way, how do you justify then?
Give me a percent. Give me a percent. Like, even though they lost in 2018, we knew that team was good enough to win the cup, right?
Right.
Okay. Like this Titans team, I would say like I'm 70%. I'm 70% sure that they are good enough to win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they will win the Super Bowl, but I do wonder, like, is the quarterback situation enough for them to be able to do it? Do they have enough weapons on offense? Special teams, can we trust the kicker? But I think the Titans have a championship team. More likely than not, this team could compete for a championship. What percentage would you say you feel confident that this style of hockey that they're playing right now will resonate in May and June?
Okay. Well, first of all, if we're going to go with if the Titans are a 70, and to the way you phrase that, Jared, I'm very confident in the style of hockey. Mm-hmm. The question I have is, are they going to keep having this production? Are the big players, are they going to produce when it matters the most? Because Forsberg hasn't. You're right. For the entire forward group, other than Rocco Grimaldi, completely took the series against Dallas off. So we've seen that before. Style, yes. I absolutely believe it. This team actually, like, if the Titans are a 70, I'd put the Preds right now at a 30, maybe something like that. But I tell you what,
I would say 25, like 20 maybe. Yeah,
that's way up. That's way up from, like, I don't know, 1, 2 when the season started. So the things trending that way, I think it's absolutely appropriate to look at it differently.
I just don't think that, like, I think that they can win a lot of regular season games playing the way they're playing and have an exciting year. And I'm not saying they can't. Like, I want everybody to know that I'm not saying they can't, and that I don't know if, like, this gritty defensive, lean on the goalie, get timely scoring, I don't know if that's going to work for you in the playoffs. And I felt like Pekka Rinne's career is proof that it can get you to the playoffs and it can maybe win you a series or two. And if you're really hot and get really good timely scoring, it can win you 3 series. But I'm not sure that you can win it all because ultimately you'll have to beat the teams with the high-end forwards. and I'm not sure. I keep going back to last year's playoff series. Crispy already got mad at me today, but I go back to last year's playoff series where I felt like Hines got beat by Rod Brindamore. I thought he got out-coached by Rod Brindamore, and I'm still a little nervous about Hines because I didn't think he was great in the Arizona bubble series, and I certainly didn't think he was good last year in that Carolina series. So it's like, now can Hines out-coach some of the best coaches or just hold his own at that level, 4 times? Like, I'm skeptical. Like I am nervous about the Titans because I think they might screw it up, but I feel confident that the Titans have a lot of the pieces required to do what it would take to win. The Predators, I'm skeptical. I'm not saying I'm out. I'm just saying I'm skeptical that what we're seeing right now will be what we're seeing in the spring. I hope they are, but I have a hard time seeing that. What's next, Caroline?
All right, ready for the next one? Joe, you go first. It is more important for Julio to get some rust off than for Derrick to get some rust off. True or false?
Oh, totally true. I mean, look, I don't really subscribe at all to the Derrick rust off thing. I don't buy that at all. I don't think he's going to play Sunday. I don't think he should play Sunday. I don't think he ever should have played Sunday. This injury, it's still an injury. Look, he's not out there if it's not like 100% he's healthy, he's fine, he's healed. We know this. But this injury is still an injury that a month, a couple months, 3 months, the more time you give, the better off you are. So to me, you wait till the absolute last possible minute until he starts cutting hard on that 250-pound body and taking hits and going all out in a football game. Like, the idea of giving him a few carries in this game to me was always dumb. And he knows what he's doing. He knows how to operate in this offense. He's going to be, we'll see about like game shape and all that stuff. But you wait until the playoff game, which should be, of course, the divisional round. Give him all that extra time, boom. And I think it's very important for Julio Jones to play this week and to get anything done he can get done within this offense to try to establish himself as a legit number 2 receiver, keep building the chemistry with Ryan Tannehill. I think it's important. I think it's an underrated part of Sunday.
Derrick Henry in his first game this year, remember Derrick Henry does not play in the preseason. Derrick Henry's first game, 17 carries for 58 yards, an average of 3.41 yards per attempt. His second game after having those 17 carries, 35 carries for 182 yards, a 5.2 yards per carry average, and 3 touchdowns. I think the only way that you get in shape for football is to play football. Now, I agree with TD today, who told us Derrick's not going to play on Sunday, and he told us that the field turf in Houston is a big concern, and I understand that completely, and I understand why they're not playing him. But I don't only think that it's important for Derrick to get back in shape. I think the Titans are going to put him out there and just kind of hope for the best. This is the best case scenario for a bad situation. But I think D'Onta Foreman shows us a little bit how important it is for a running back to get kind of those hits and get in shape. When Foreman was on the team last year, I thought he played okay, but he didn't get much of an opportunity, and he was here for a handful of weeks. Foreman comes back into the mix. They give him the ball a little bit. He shows a little bit of promise, but not a lot. And now it was really kind of that New England and Pittsburgh game where you could tell, hey, D'Onta Foreman is now at the peak of his ability. And the peak of D'Onta Foreman's ability is a lot better than everybody else and all 32 general managers in the NFL thought. And I think it's because when you're a physical running back, you need to be hit a little bit. The difference between Derrick and Julio for me is that I don't expect anything out of Julio, and I'm not even really hoping for anything out of Julio. If he plays, he plays. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I'm fine with going to war with A.J. Brown and Nick Westbrook-Akina, and you should be too, Joe. I'm fine with that, long-term, short-term, whatever. There's no counting on Julio for me because I don't even know that Julio's going to make it through this game or that he's going to be able to make it through the bye week, when they have a practice and all of a sudden, Julio, So I don't count on Julio. I'm not worried about Julio. He is what he is. You can't get to the Super Bowl, I don't think, without Derrick Henry. So somewhere, somehow, you're going to need Derrick to get to peak Derrick, and I don't think he can do that without actually getting a couple of carries and getting a couple of hits. Not saying that he should play this week, but I'm just saying that if you're asking me who do I think needs reps more, I think Derrick needs reps because you need Derrick more.
Listen, so you're citing these 17 for 50. You're citing stats for me, Jared. You're telling me that you came away from the season opener saying, man, that Derrick Henry looked rusty. I don't know. Just a little bit of rust. Other than that, it was fine. They didn't block anyone in that game, Jared. A year ago, it was the same preseason. They go to Denver. He goes for 30 for 116 right away in the opener. That was not a rust situation. That was a Titans getting their butts kicked up front all day long situation. It had nothing to do with him.
Go back to that Denver game. I want to go back to that Denver game.
Okay.
Is 30 for 116 what we expect out of Derrick? Like, if Derrick's getting 30 carries.
It's fine.
If Derrick's getting 30 carries, this is Derrick. This isn't some regular running back. If he's getting 30 carries, he usually is about good for 165 yards, maybe even 200 yards if you're giving it to him 30 times. If you go back to that Bronco game, and that was a Bronco game that I thought was won in large part by Tannehill at the end. But if you go back to that Bronco game, Derrick did not have any big runs. And he did not have any runs that were close to being big runs. And then later, as they got moving forward, Derrick started to break some big runs. Notoriously, Derrick is a slow starter. And you know me, I love Derrick Henry. I thought Derrick was tired in that first game against Denver when they gave it to him 30 times with no preseason and no games before it. I think that I think Derrick, like Nick Saban said, he gets better the more you give it to him, not just in the game, but I think overall, I think they got to give it to him.
It's matchups too, Jared. The next week, he went for 84 on 25 against Jacksonville. So he had his week. He got the rust out. Had a worse game. I mean, it's matchups. It's play by play, man. And he was Derrick Henry in the season opener against Arizona. If he's out there for the playoff game, he'll be Derrick Henry then too. And you know what? It's not a one-man game. It's the whole running game working in tandem. It's winning up front, but I would not even he needs rest way more than he needs any kind of rep.
Caroline?
Well, and I have a question for you, Joe. Focusing more on the first part of that question about is it more important for Julio to get some rust off? What is it about Julio? Like, do you think that there is another level of Julio that the Titans just haven't seen?
Well, I mean, I think they have seen it in glimpses. They saw it when he had 120 yards at Seattle, and he had a touchdown catch that got robbed of him too. They haven't seen enough of it. I thought he still looked like the Julio Jones we thought he might be in the first half of the game against Kansas City. He had one catch and run in particular, that looked like Julio Jones. So is it in there? I mean, I would think some level of that is in there. 80% of it, I don't know. But I don't agree with Jared that it's like, you're fine. Rodgers, Westbrook, Kikina, and AJ go. I think Julio Jones can definitely be your second best receiver still. And I think they need that.
I think with Julio, it's all just hoping. It's all just like, maybe. It's like when you send up Albert Pujols to pinch hit in the playoffs. Yeah, Albert hadn't been good in 7 years, but you know what? Maybe Albert can run into a fastball. That's what it is with Julio Jones. It's just like, yeah, okay, maybe. Joe's talking about that one catch Julio had in that Colts game. He caught a ball, or the Chiefs game. Julio caught a ball, turned it upfield. Julio, 2 catches for 38 yards.
And he ran over He ran over 2 guys. I mean, that's the physical receiver that he has been. It's great.
That's
and by the way, he was
that made
great
that catch
last
on the
year.
sideline. That's the guy who made that catch on the sideline in the Super Bowl. Same guy. Just
all right. On to the next one. Jared, you go first on this one. Hub Arkish says that he is not voting for Aaron Rodgers because, in a nutshell, he's a jerk. Is Hub Arkish justified, or should he be focused on what players actually do on the field?
I think if you give somebody a vote who covers the sport, you're giving them that vote, and you're not telling them like, hey, you're only allowed to vote for the guys that I think are the best, because that's what this has turned into. Because anytime we've done this with voting now, which is that if I don't like the way you vote, then your vote shouldn't count, which is ridiculous. I mean, in all these other sports, being a jerk does matter. Like being a jerk or playing in a big city, or those things matter. And people, for some reason, just completely ignore that the exact same thing happened to Barry Bonds in 1991. Terry Pendleton got the MVP because Barry Bonds is a jerk. And so the only problem Hub Arksuh has is that he said it out loud. But he's not the only guy who's going to do that, who's going to not vote Aaron because they think the guy's a jerk. And not only that, like, Hub makes a point that how can you be the most valuable player when you went out of your way, or when you missed the Kansas City game because you weren't vaccinated and that hurt your team? I don't agree with it, but that's his opinion. And I just think that what's happened with all forms of voting is we've turned into, well, I don't like your vote, so you shouldn't have your vote. And it's like, wait a minute, no. Like, if this is what he says, this is what it should be. I saw Jim Trotter on NFL Network said, the Hall of Fame needs to make a more, they need to standardize the criteria for voting. And I'm like, isn't that kind of how this Hall of Fame works? Like, if I was on the Hall of Fame committee, and I know people that are on it, so I don't think that these people know this much more about football than me, but if I was in the Hall of Fame committee, you know how I'd vote for the Hall of Fame? I think in my head, is that person in the Hall of Fame? Should they be in the Hall of Fame? No, I don't think Edgerrin James should be in the Hall of Fame. Next. Let's see. Do I think Tony Baselli should be in the Hall of Fame? Yes. Put Tony in. Let's see. Who is this? Torrey Holt? No. Reggie Wayne? No. Peyton Manning? Yeah, put him in the Hall of Fame. That's how I would do it, and I'm sure there's somebody out there.
You would do no work on it?
I mean, again, we all watched them. Like, we watched them for the Hall of Fame, so we know. And so that's how I feel.
Might be worth refreshing some information. I'm just saying.
Okay, but I can refresh Edgerrin James, and I can watch him, be Edgerrin James. He was good. He was a good player. But, again, like this idea of like, well, this guy doesn't vote how I think he should vote, so he should lose his vote. I think that that's a real slippery slope.
I don't think that's what's happening here. I think there's going to be other people who vote for someone other than Aaron Rodgers, I'm sure, right? And if you vote for, Jonathan Taylor, or if you vote for Brady, or who else would be up there
Cooper Kupp
right now? Yeah. Okay. There's some move, you can make a case for any of those people. And I don't think it's like, oh, you didn't vote for Rodgers, this is all groupthink, you're out of here. I think the problem is the stuff that he said. And so he got ratioed for it, and he deserved to be ratioed for it. I mean, it was dumb. In my opinion, and you're right that this has happened. Absolutely. It happened to T.O. Personality, and I don't think it should. It happened to Lou Whitaker, because of stuff he said during the strike of 94. I mean, I think especially with baseball voters, by the way, that's a separate category of sensitivity and personal vendettas, in my opinion.
Is it though? Like the sports writers are all the same? It's not like a baseball coach to a football coach where the sport's different. Guys who cover football are the same who cover baseball.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like some of the Baseball Hall of Fame writers are maybe a little bit overboard with this stuff. But regardless, I just disagree with his message, and of course, he came out and apologized for it. Because look, I don't like a lot of what Aaron Rodgers has said here this season, and that's fine. You can say he missed the one game, or you can say he actually caused all this turmoil for them. But I mean, look, the bottom line is he said he's a bad guy for one thing, which is way overboard.
He is a bad guy.
Okay. But okay, fine. Take that, put that to the side. MVP to me is still, in my opinion, it should be what you do in the field of play, and that's it. And unless we're talking about really bad stuff, and we're not, in my opinion. So I think Hub Arksuh looked stupid, and he got nailed for it, and that's fine. It's not just because he didn't vote for everybody's favorite candidate. It's the stuff he said about it.
Yeah, but like he's not the only one who's going to do that. So you're going to sit there and say, well, some other people won't vote for Rodgers, but some of those people who aren't voting for Rodgers, who are voting for Jonathan Taylor, like they're doing it for the same reason Hub Arksuh did it, and they're just not going to tell you. So now it's like, well, I guess it's okay if the guy lies about it, but at least he was honest about it, and that's how I feel about the Rodgers thing. I mean, I am bothered personally, not by the vaccine stuff, but I'm more so bothered by the fact that Rodgers, spent the entire offseason, leaving his team in limbo, and then has spent the entire season spending Tuesdays on Pat McAfee. Again, you can hear it on SiriusXM Mad Dog channel, Mad Dog Radio, channel 82, great channel. But, he's on the Pat McAfee show every week talking about, at the end of the offseason, I might retire. At the end of the offseason, I won't take long to make my thing, talking all about the offseason, making it all about him. And I don't think in a team sport that's great. It hasn't hurt him as a quarterback. But, I mean, I certainly think that there are things Aaron has done that could be detrimental to a team. It hasn't hurt them winning games. But
where is he a bad guy? You just said he's a bad guy. What makes him a bad guy?
Oh, he's incredibly selfish. He never makes it about his team. He's always trying to get people fired. He's trying to get Mike McCarthy fired all the time. He's trying to get the president of the Packers fired. He's trying to get the general manager, Brian Gutekunst, fired. When they don't play by his rules, then Aaron turns on everybody. He holds grudges, and he's incredibly sensitive. And he has no problem turning everybody against somebody else. He tried to do that with Gutekunst in the offseason. He was hoping Packer fans would take his side and not Gutekunst's side. And I would just say that, as I have said many times on this station, there's somebody that knows the two brothers pretty well. Most everybody who does know the two brothers knows that if you got a problem with those two guys, you're the problem. And I think all these things have added up that Aaron just wants things done his way. I think Aaron is incredibly selfish. I think he's incredibly sensitive. And I think that his actions and the way that he doesn't worry about how that affects others, I think makes him a bad guy.
You want to tally up?
Tally it up.
Well, I think the biggest thing here, that my biggest decision, because in that last topic, I think you both bring up decent points, because I do think that so many MVP voters probably do not vote for a certain player just because they have personal vendettas against them. They just don't say it. And it's stupid to get on your soapbox and say it publicly. But I mean, at the same time, like, it's your vote. You can do whatever you want to do with it. He was just stupid for saying it publicly. But I think the biggest thing here.
Would you rather him lie about it?
I'd rather him just not say anything about it.
But isn't that disingenuous then?
Does he need to spill the beans about his entire thought process about who he's going to vote for? Do you do that when you vote for president?
A lot of people do. I don't.
But you don't have to. You don't have to.
Imagine if everyone did. God, we'd never get through a day on Twitter.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But Jared wins just because I find it so hard to believe that knocking off rust for any player on this team is more important than it is for Derrick Henry to do it.
Man, rough.
My bigger
Sorry,
issue,
Joe.
Rest that foot.
My bigger issue with Joe's take on that, by the way, is the fact that it feels like Joe is holding out hope that Julio Jones can make a difference down the stretch of the playoffs. And I heard Willie Donick today,
I don't think it's entirely
heavens.
Impossible. I don't think it's an absolute outrageous thought.
Hope is a heartache, Joe, and Julio Jones has been nothing but a heartache for this team.
Here's the problem, and I'll leave Joe on this, that if he catches the same pass Khalif Raymond caught against the Ravens in a playoff game this year, everybody is going to jump up like Joe and say, see, this is what we were waiting for all year. And when I say something like Khalif Raymond could have done that, you'll laugh at me. But we've seen Khalif Raymond do that. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. Well, there may be a slight bit more defensive awareness of Julio Jones and Khalif Raymond, but I hear what you're saying.
I know Khalif Raymond's got better stats this year. Appreciate you, Joe.